what I chose to discuss is fantasy football, as you can see here to my right, your left. Fantasy football has such a grip on society nowadays. The fact that over 40 million people play fantasy football, doubling in the last 4 years. It's been around for 50 plus years, but the fact that internet, technology, mobile networking, it makes it so much easier to be accessible. It's just an amazing game. I love it. And if you guys don't know much about it, I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to the world of fantasy football. It's really not as complex as you think, and it's really a great thing. A little bit about its background. Here is the first Final Fantasy draft. As you can see, it's on paper. There's no electronics involved. It's 1962. You got the people that are playing in the league on the upper hand, and you got who they're picking. It's a very crude vision of it, and it will develop over the years and develop. But at the time, you're starting out, so you only have so much to work with. The origins, little small fun facts for you. The Oakland Raiders owner at the time, Bill Rinkenbach, with his friends, decided that they were going to start a fantasy golf. They were into golf. The Raiders weren't doing so well. He needed something to preoccupy his time. Now, this conversation took place around Halloween. Nobody knows the exact time, but around that time. They decided that, hey, we like how golf is played, but we would like to do something a little bit different by taking maybe a little bit of different score making than what golf would regulate usually, and have a little fun with it. I believe they still have a little bit of fantasy golf now. It's not much. 90% of all fantasy sports played are dominated by the football market, but you still have basketball, baseball, NASCAR, hockey, lacrosse, and golf, but that's just a mere 10% with all those sports included. The 90% of all fantasy sports are played by football, and you have mobile apps to use now, you have computers to use now. Everything's a nice, crisp, easy way to use things. It's a little bit about the basics. Fantasy football has integrated itself into society where the NFL has almost relied on fantasy football in a way. Fantasy football makes multi-billion-dollar industry. There is many people who do podcasts. Matthew Berry, one of the most critically acclaimed fantasy football analysts, if you will, has over 600,000 downloads on his podcast during the fantasy football season. And like I said, over $1 billion in revenue, multiple websites are being used. They even showed ratings from Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football when they would have the low games of low interest and the high games of high interest. Those low games have almost doubled just by the fact that the teams that are playing might not be very good teams to you and me, but maybe some player on that team you own and you have a little bit more stake in. If you have a certain running back, you want to see him do good. It brings a new aspect. We all like Seahawks around here, I'm going to assume. But the fact that you have other people and other games to watch and enjoy, Arizona Cardinals, the New Orleans Saints, it's great to be able to pick one player and just want them to succeed. It's just individualized stats, so you don't have to root for the whole team. I understand a lot of you guys might not like the Steelers or the Patriots. You don't have to like the whole team, but if you have Tom Brady, he's a pretty good fantasy football quarterback, and I know you try to get him. It's very intricate stuff, but when it all comes down to it, it's pretty simple. Where do I start? How do I know if I'm doing things right? And trickery. People might try to pull a little wool over your eyes with the trades. I will get into that a little bit later. But as for the basics, let's go right to drafting. You and your friends will get together and decide on what website you'd like to use. You could even do it free range like you saw with the crude first draft, if you will. I choose ESPN.com. This is the schematic of what I got for it. it shows you, all the players, and then, last year's stats. And then, like I've said, Matthew Berry and other people have, analyzed about who's going to have a great career, by injuries. They take so many different aspects of it to make a huge countdown of all the players and what order they think they should be drafted on. Not everybody agrees with them. Usually the first 10, 20 players people agree with. But some people might want a receiver that might have been ranked low and thinks, hey, Matthew Berry could be wrong, or so-and-so could be wrong. I have a good feeling about this receiver, and I might drop down and go try to grab him. It's not like a regular draft that we're used to with NBA, basketball, and football, and baseball. This draft is, you can drop low to an extent to grab somebody that you think somebody else might want. Your team over here, the roster, it will show you slowly filling up what positions you need. And you see the bench right here. The bench is going to be a very key point. We'll touch base with that in a couple seconds here. But for now, quarterback, running back, receivers, tight ends, you're going to start all of those people, and you're going to get points on individual statistics. Now, with lineups, like I was talking about the bench just about 20 seconds prior here, you can move anybody to anywhere on your lineup within their position. As you can see up here on the bench, Beanie Wells, that P stands for probable. We're not going to get into all the little tiny probables and, maybe play, might not play. That's a bit more extensive. We're just trying to introduce you slowly into this game that we love. The probable right here, you're not sure if this person's going to start. I don't know what I'm going to do. Do I have somebody better that I can throw in there that I know will do good and I know will start? It's so many small factors that you need to check out. It's really what your gut, you should go with your gut. A lot of people second guess their stuff because they listen to so many podcasts, and those guys, this is their life. They analyze these kind of things. But sometimes you think, oh, so-and-so twisted his ankle, but I still think he can get 200 yards rushing. Who knows? But like you see the lineups here, they show you what the projections are, the percentage of the projections you'll get. It's very intricate stuff, but like I said, what you know about the sport of football and what your gut goes with is what I would go with. Let's go on a little bit more from lineups. We're going to go to scoring. Now, let's not get all into scoring because there are hundreds of thousands. Let's just go with hundreds. Hundreds of different ways to score, lose points, or what have you. For a quarterback, let's say, they throw a touchdown, that's 6 points. If they throw for 25 yards, they get 1 point for every 25 yards thrown. They get rushing yards every 10 yards. Same with running back, every 10 yards rushed, regardless, is a point. And you just want to see what quarterbacks you have. A scrambling quarterback, you have a throwing quarterback, You think Tom Brady's one of the greatest quarterbacks. If he throws 4 touchdowns, 4 times 6, that's 24 points right there, not counting what the yards he's getting. And if you get that in a game, it's pretty good to have a good quarterback or a good running back. Somebody's going to run for 100 yards, 10 points a game, and they'll probably get a touchdown. 16 points, 22 points, wherever it might be. So the scoring is pretty easy. You kick a field goal, you get 1 point. You kick a far distance one, like 50 yards, you might get 2 or 3 points. On the defense, if they're getting interceptions or if they're getting any points on their side, you'll get points. They try to make it easy where, if you get 21 points scored on you, you're not going to lose. You'll start off like at a 7-point ratio, and you can slowly chip away and get down to like a 1 or a 0, or even in the negatives, like in this one right here, this kicker over here has a negative. I know it's not what defense is, but it just shows you a little bit about the negativity here. And it just matches you up with the person you're playing against. And like I said, the individual scores are put together for your concept of your team, and will be judged against another person's singular scores, and their team will add up, and whoever has the highest points will win. Going to a playoff system, crazy stuff. Hard decisions. You're going to come across injuries. You're going to come across who you should start, if you should trade something. Now, I touched back about trickery and pulling the wool over your eyes a little bit before. What happens is some people have great thoughts about players that were in their prime, maybe not so much now, and go, hey, this receiver, Super Bowl 5 years ago, great player. And you're in your mind like, yeah, that guy was, he's a great player. not paying attention to his stats maybe this year with the team he's with or what have you. This person might say, I really want that person, and get somebody young. And people really pull the wool over your eyes by, this young person that's really on a hot streak, but go, hey, this guy's proven, but he might be on the downward spiral of his career. So you get trickery like that. People are always trying to get the advantage here and try to sell you on why their player should be traded to you and why you should give them them. And it's always because you're getting a good deal out of it, and they're just being good friends. You got to look for stuff like that. With who you should start, we talked about that a little bit with the Beanie Wells situation and the probability. You got to check throughout the week about who's hurting, who's not, who's practicing. It's so much stuff. A lot of people don't do that, and you can still enjoy the game just as much without doing all that. You don't have to dedicate your whole life to it. You can just say, I want to throw this together, I want to play with my friends. And, when the Seahawks aren't playing, I'll watch the other games on Sunday or, Monday. We want a reason to root for the teams. And it's a great feeling. With injuries, it'll bring me up right to this next one of free agency. If you have an injury early in the season, somebody just tears their ACL, they're going to be out. If they're going to be out and they're not coming back for the season, what's the point of them taking up a spot on your roster or your benchmark? You might as well drop them. Drop them off your team. You go here to free agency. What do you need? Do you need another quarterback? Do you need a running back? Do you need a receiver, a better kicker? What do you need? You grab one of these guys, you throw them on your bench, or you throw them in your roster spot. There's some great picks here on the free agent list. Sometimes they will go undrafted, rookies. This year, Doug Martin. He wasn't even starting at the beginning of the year. He had a huge amount of rushing yards this year. One of the greatest fantasy running back picks this year. I didn't want to get too intricate with name dropping or anything, but this is the kind of things. He was probably not drafted. He was just a free agent sitting there on the free agency that nobody thought to pick up. Somebody was paying attention to little glimmers of greatness, what he was doing over in Tampa Bay. This is my presentation. Like I said, fantasy football should be tried by everybody. It's billions and billions of dollars. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I started about 6 years ago, and I've played every year, and I don't want to miss it. I never miss it. It's something to throw my phone up and just click with on weekdays. I know there's some vices. People saying there's too much time spent on it. With everything, use in moderation, of course. But if I were you, I would love you guys just to try fantasy football. See what you like about it. It's only growing. It's getting bigger. Like I said, 4 years ago and to now, it's doubled. It's only going to get bigger. Everything electronic can get so small on your body, and you can access so many things from a 4-inch phone like an iPhone. That's what I use. And I could pull up an app and I could switch people in and out. It's absolutely amazing. So if you have the time, if you have the interest, if I spark any interest, please just go out, try it. You got till fall, mull it over. I just want to thank you guys all for your time. It's been a pleasure. You guys have